A representative following sexual misconduct allegations.
A jury found former President Donald Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll.
And Representative George Santos is charged by the Justice Department in a federal probe today.
At thunderstorms in and around the crossroads and very close to our area. We're going to have thunder all night long, folks, so just get ready for it. I don't know if we're going to lose power, but if you need to have a wind-up alarm clock, you may as well get that ready. We'll be talking about what to expect tonight and for the rest of the week coming up in a moment.
And the UHV Jaguars won its first ever RRAC title. We have highlights in sports.
You're watching 25 News Now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker.
And I'm Karina Garcia. Texas state representatives voted to expel North Texas Representative Bryan Slaton following sexual misconduct allegations. They voted from the Texas House by a vote of 147-0. The 45-year-old Republican was accused of sexual misconduct with a 19-year-old aide and of providing her with alcohol. Slaton resigned yesterday ahead of the expulsion vote, but admitted no wrongdoing in a resignation letter sent to Governor Greg Abbott. Slaton's lawyers previously said the allegations against him were outrageous and false.
A Bay City junior high student is in custody after a threat was made on the junior high Monday night. The Bay City Police Department reports a 14-year-old student was detained for a felony terroristic threat. Bay City ISD will also be taking action against the student. A man has been taken into custody after a house fire in Ganado Monday. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office reports at the scene of the fire in the 1000 block of Fairlane Drive, a man told Ganado police he started the fire. Authorities say after an investigation, the man was arrested and the fire is being treated as a case of arson. The latest news in the civil lawsuit involving former President Trump and writer E. Jean Carroll.
That's right. The jury reached a verdict and found the former president liable.
After more than a week of testimony and a little under 3 hours of deliberations, a New York City jury finding that former President Donald Trump sexually abused writer E. Jean Carroll, ordering him to pay her $5 million in damages. Carroll's attorney reacting as they left the courthouse. The jury found that Trump sexually abused Carroll in a department store dressing room in the 1990s, though they weren't convinced that he raped her as she had claimed. They did, though, agree that Trump defamed Carroll by calling her story a complete con job, a hoax and a lie, insisting Carroll was not my type. The former president refused to take the stand. Instead, jurors watched portions of a videotaped deposition.
You say Marla's in this photo?
That's Marla, yeah. That's my wife.
Which woman are you pointing to?
No.
Here. Oh, is that,
The person you just pointed to was E. Jean Carroll.
On Monday, both sides given one last chance to try to sway the jury in their favors. Trump's attorney accusing Carroll of making up a rape story to sell a book. Carroll testifying that Trump attacked her nearly 30 years ago in that dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman. Carroll, though, never went to the police, telling the jury she was ashamed, saying she decided to tell her story now because of the Me Too movement. Tonight, Trump calling the verdict a disgrace, a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. His lawyer says he will appeal.
What more could he say other than I didn't do it? And he said that on the oath here.
Trump's legal team had asked for a mistrial, which was denied. The jury, though, also awarding $1 million in damages and $1.7 million for reputation repair and $280,000 in punitive damages. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, New York.
And Judge Lois Kaplan dismissed the jury after the verdict and informed them they could identify themselves publicly if they chose. However, he suggested they should remain silent, which brings us to your viewer poll tonight. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. The question is, do you want the jurors in the Carroll civil case to identify themselves, yes or no? We take a look at these results for tonight, and 24% say yes, 76% say no. Thank you for voting tonight. Visit us tomorrow for our latest viewer poll.
Here are the current river flood warnings posted for the crossroads from the National Weather Service. In Victoria, a flood warning goes into effect late Thursday night until early Sunday afternoon for the Guadalupe River at Victoria.
In Victoria and Calhoun counties, a flood warning goes into effect Thursday evening until further notice for the Guadalupe River near Bloomington.
Let's take a first look at your forecast with First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Pettis. So with these warnings, river flood warnings coming up. Mac, we've got to assume that a lot more rain is coming the next 24 to 48.
Absolutely. I just got a kind of a stunning phone call from Nordheim. One of our engineer, or our chief engineer, lives there, and he has a fairly fancy rain gauge. He says they've had 6 inches of rain today. So you know that water's got to go somewhere. And if you're out in that area, Nordheim, DeWitt, all those areas, probably best not to be driving around tonight. Tomorrow morning, once the sun comes up, we'll see if there's still standing water or if it's drained off, because that has been pretty impressive. There you see the biggest activity. Here's Cuero, and that's that line that went all the way through Nordheim that's dropping the heavy rain. Places like Kennedy has gotten pounded today, and it continues going on. Now, severe thunderstorm warnings are up for a few areas. So far, the city has really missed the big stuff, but it's not over just yet. In fact, tomorrow will be fairly stormy. There's a little break before the weekend, but the weekend looks pretty bad, actually. We'll talk more about that coming up a little bit later on. Back to you, Don, Karina.
Mac, thank you. Brownsville police say the man charged in the death of 8 people after his vehicle rammed a crowd in front of a migrant shelter had cocaine, marijuana, and other narcotics in his system at the time. 34-year-old George Alvarez facing 8 counts of manslaughter and additional charges stemming from injuries to 10 people. The Washington Post reports police are awaiting more toxicology reports before they determine a motive in the crash.
The joy felt Monday by gun control advocates and families of Uvalde shooting victims faded Tuesday when a bill that would raise the age to legally purchase semi-automatic rifles left off the House's agenda ahead of a key deadline. Now, the final day the House can pass bills is Thursday. The Texas Tribune reports the committee that makes the calendars met Tuesday afternoon and approved the agendas for the rest of the week. The Raise the Age bill was not on it.
Federal prosecutors have filed criminal charges against New York Representative George Santos. He made headlines last year when it came to light that he lied about his education and work history. Allegations surfaced about him breaking campaign finance laws, masterminding a credit card scheme, and stealing money meant for an Iraq War veteran's dying dog. Santos has denied these serious accusations, but admitted to lying on his resume. The House Ethics Committee is currently investigating him. Now, a manhunt is underway in Philadelphia for 2 dangerous inmates.
They had escaped from the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Facility Sunday, but authorities were not notified until Monday.
The facility became aware today at their 3 p.m. head count that we had 2 individuals that were not accounted for. They're going back through the process to see those 3 counts that were called in is cleared and why they did not detect those 2 individuals missing.
The men are 18-year-old Amin Hurst. He's been charged with 4 murders, including one right here on Street Road in March 2021.
He's a very dangerous individual from what we know, and we are looking for the public's help to get him back.
The other, Nasir Grant, is 28 years old. He's been charged with drug and gun offenses. They were housed in the same unit, but were not cellmates. The 2 inmates were not detected missing in head counts taken at 11 p.m. on Sunday and 3 and 7 a.m. on Monday. Here is Mayor Jim Kenney's response.
The number one responsibility right now is to get these guys off the street. And any information that any folks can provide us, there's, I believe, a reward on each of them for $20,000 each for information leading to their arrest. So that's job number 1. Job number 2 is to get the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections in here and assess the system. Clearly, the system's screwed up. I'm really angry about it. There's no reason for this. And if everybody followed through and did what they're supposed to do, we wouldn't have this problem.
The U.S. Marshals and Philadelphia police are coordinating on the manhunt for the inmates, while the Department of Prisons continues to investigate exactly what happened and how it could have happened.
Authorities say the prison has not had a breach since 2010. Just last week, the Correctional Officers Union entered a vote of no confidence in prisons Commissioner Carney's leadership because of a staffing crisis. The White House not taking a stand on the arrest of Pakistan's former leader. Paramilitary troops arrested the former Pakistani prime minister Tuesday after smashing their way into a courthouse. He was submitting biometric data for a court appearance at the time. The arrest spurred protests in Pakistan. Some leaders are referring it to as an abduction. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre did not go further than acknowledging that it happened.
We're aware of the arrest of former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan. As we have said before, the United States does not have a position on one political candidate or party versus another. We call for the respect of democratic principles and the rule of law around the world. So I would refer you to the government of Pakistan for any further information on that.
The 72-year-old was thrown out of office last year after a vote of no confidence in Pakistan's parliament. Since then, he has led a popular campaign against the current government. He's facing multiple corruption charges. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10. An employee at an Amazon facility in Indiana dies from a workplace injury.
Also ahead, FTX founder's attorney filed motions to dismiss fraud charges against Sam Bankman-Fried.
Hi, I'm Detective Kelly Gibbs with the Victoria Police Department. Victoria Crime Stoppers is seeking information about a burglary with intent to commit assault. On Sunday, March 12th at 12:30 a.m., two armed suspects wearing masks forced their way into a location at the 3400 block of Cypress Street. The home was occupied at the time, and a 45-year-old male sustained a gunshot wound and was later taken to a local hospital for treatment. The two offenders fled the location in a white car, possibly a Chevy Malibu or Impala. If you have any information about this burglary, call Victoria Crime Stoppers at 361-572-4200. You can also submit a tip by using a P3 tip app on your Android or Apple device, or by visiting our website at www.crimestoppersvictoria.com. All tips are anonymous, and if you give information that leads to an arrest or charges being filed, you could earn a cash reward. With the Victoria Police Department, I'm Detective Kelly Gibbs.
employee at the Amazon Fulfillment Center in Fort Wayne, Indiana, died yesterday while on the job. Emergency crews responded to the Amazon facility around noon for a workplace injury call. Authorities say the worker was taken to a local hospital and pronounced dead. Details about the incident weren't released, but the Allen County Sheriff's Department is investigating. Officers are working to review our surveillance videos of this incident.
President Biden met with the Big Four congressional leaders on the debt limit today. They're looking for an end to the stalemate over raising the nation's debt limit to avoid economic catastrophe by as soon as June 1st. Biden was talking to Senate Majority Leader Schumer, Senate Minority Leader McConnell, House Speaker McCarthy, and House Democrat Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Okay, folks, welcome. I'm sure that my colleagues and I will be saying things to you after this is all over. But in the meantime, just wanted to welcome you, let you know what we're doing. We're not going to take any questions now. We're going to get started. We're going to solve all the world's problems.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says after the meeting he did not see any new movement, his words, toward ending the nation's debt limit. It's the first substantive discussion on the issue in months between President Biden and House Speaker McCarthy. Large crowds are often a sign of celebration, like concerts, parades, festivals, parties like Cinco de Mayo last week.
That's right. Yeah. But they also increase the risk of spreading an illness.
Recently, the CDC issued an advisory that a person with measles attended a large gathering of more than 20,000 people. There have been multiple measles outbreaks around the globe, and U.S. officials are stressing the importance of early recognition and vaccination. Measles is a very contagious virus that can be quite serious, especially in children younger than the age of 5. About 1 in 5 people in the U.S. who get measles end up in the hospital, with 1 to 3 in every 1,000 people dying, even with the best care. Symptoms can include high fever, even more than 104 degrees Fahrenheit, cough, runny nose, red, watery eyes, and a rash that usually develops 3 to 5 days after symptoms begin. The virus spreads through the air by coughs or sneezes. One person can infect up to 9 out of 10 people around them, even if they're unaware they have the disease. That's why officials are urging children and adults to be vaccinated. Talk to your healthcare provider and be sure to mention if you plan to travel abroad, as the vaccine regimen may be different. With this Medical Minute, I'm Sherry Preston, ABC News.
A new study shows blacks and Hispanics who grew up in Chicago were more likely to see someone shot by the time they turned 40 than white people. Researchers looked at 2,500 participants' exposure to gun violence between 1995 and 2021 and found 56% of blacks and 55% of Latinos witnessed someone getting shot. White people's exposure to gun violence was half as much as that, nearly at 26%. While their findings only reflect what happened in Chicago, researchers say other major cities have similar experiences. Lawyers for the founder of FTX are asking the court to dismiss federal charges against him. They filed motions to dismiss Monday. Prosecutors are accusing him of stealing customer deposits from the bankrupt cryptocurrency exchange to finance risky bets at his hedge fund and to funnel contributions to American politicians. However, defense attorneys are arguing the U.S. government failed to properly explain what offenses Bankman-Fried has committed. If he's convicted on all counts, he could face more than 155 years in prison.
Monday night storm South Texas caused widespread damage on South Padre Island and Port Isabel. AEP Texas reports thousands of customers were without lights this morning. The National Weather Service reports that in Brownsville, the storm had wind speeds up to 60 miles per hour, and in Port Isabel, winds went up to 63 miles per hour.
Well, that activity and what we're getting, we may have some of that problem by tomorrow morning. Now, we've got big storms around our area. We've had significant rainfall in the 6-inch range out in Nordheim, according to one of our spotters out there. The big stuff, at least we don't have any, I don't see any hail around here. That's good. But there are going to be thunderstorms around the area. They're all sweeping around the coastal bend. Right now, the city of Victoria is not in the firing range, but Cuero has been under the gun for quite some time. This heavy stuff will be with us for most of tomorrow. There's a little break Thursday, Friday, but then there's more on the weekend. So stay tuned. It's a complicated weather forecast. Stay tuned. Well, good evening, everybody. We have had some interesting weather around the area. This is the live picture looking at Cuero, and I had it on because we were seeing the thunder and lightning flashing there every other minute. Maybe that's that. There you go. Yeah, that's very stormy out there. They're getting heavy rain. Right now it's 70 out here at the airport in Victoria. Of course, the high temperature was impacted by the amount of cloud cover and rain. There you saw lightning. 80 was our high temperature, and we only got officially 4,400s out at the airport. But as I mentioned earlier, our chief engineer lives in Nordheim, and he's got a pretty fancy little rain gauge out there, and he says he's had 6 inches of rain, and that is going to cause all kinds of problems. Now here's the city. I'm going to leave my finger there. There's the biggest activity, which is really to the northwest of us, over Cuero, and of course going all the way down into Kennedy. This stuff will be around for a couple more hours, and so thunder and lightning are going to be a problem. Now, is it possible that you lose electricity? Yes, it's possible, and if you really need to get up at a certain time, I'd get a old-fashioned wind-up clock. Remember those? They've got to be somewhere. And if not, make sure that you have a second battery for your phone to make sure that triggers out. So get a charge up for tonight. Now, this is part of that complex that's spinning around like this. It's not only causing problems for us, but all the way up to Houston as well. And that is the next problem right here. The big thunderstorms that are firing along the mountains of Mexico are creeping into the Texas. As you can see right about there, 2 clusters are very strong, one about to hit the valley and the other one out there in the Gulf of Mexico. But let's zoom in and get you a real tight shot. Here's the city of Victoria, and there you see the real heavy stuff. So right now, travel is not encouraged, okay? It's best to just stay put, stay where you are. I wouldn't travel at all because, you know, the major roadways are going to be fine, but it's those county roads that may get a little bit of flooding with all this rain. And also tonight or early tomorrow morning, I wouldn't just take off at 3 or 4 in the morning. I would wait until sunrise till we see how much actual footage we have in terms of rainfall. And there again, there's Goliad. There you see Yorktown getting a pretty strong storm moving through there, and then up into Cuero. So yes, our friends to the north have had the biggest stuff so far tonight, but it is not over with by any stretch of the imagination. This green area to the north of Houston is a flash flood advisory for tomorrow and then on. The important thing is that this is a severe thunderstorm warning, which is Goliad all the way to Victoria. So that means that we've got a big thunderstorm in this spot that's also moving northward. The Guadalupe River is under flood warning advisory. That means it's going to flood with the water that's already coming in. And that is going to peak on Friday at about 24 feet. Now, 21 feet is flood stage, so it means we're going to be 3 feet above that. So a lot of the low-lying areas will have flooding down there. This is the system that's causing all the heavy rain. That one is pulling away. But the dry line is going to continue giving us bands of showers rolling through. So here's what we expect tonight. 70 the low, 40% chance of showers. They're right on top of you right now, I know. And then tomorrow we should get up only to about 84 with the shower activity continuing. It's heavy on Wednesday, little lighter Thursday, Friday, then gets heavy again on Saturday, Sunday. I know that is Mother's Day weekend, and we probably had plans. Make sure they're indoor, or make sure that grandma has an umbrella. Otherwise, we've got alert days scheduled for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of next week. All right, we do have a QR code. Please scan this. I'm going to be sending out tweets all night long with the storm activity. Take Crossroads today, put it on your phone, and take us wherever you need to go. And now we'll toss it over to Gino with sports.
Thanks, Mac. The top-ranked Shiner Comanches are looking to get back to the state title game. We hear from the D1 star in sports. Back at Crossroads, the UHV Jaguars took on the Louisiana State University Alexandria Generals today. The Jaguars put themselves in prime position after a base hit by Hayden Leupold and a double by Raul Lopez, then a walk to load the bases. Halademel Perez said it's time to bring everybody home, and he blasts the ball over the left field wall for a grand slam to give UHV a 4-run lead. The Jaguars would go on to add to the lead to put the score up to 12 in the contest and run rule the Generals to win its first ever RRAC title and first conference title since 2010. Here's the tournament MVP Perez and head coach Jonathan Stavanoa on the victory.
I was just trying to hit the ball out of the infield, bases loaded, 1 out. I just wanted to get a run in. Yeah! Just got a hold of it, and it went out. Thanks to God. Can't express. I was so happy.
And it's great because when I came in the door, these guys welcomed me with open arms, and the community support, everything has been great, and they really picked up what I was trying to give to them and took it and ran. And here we are playing our best baseball at the end of the year. And, Red River Athletic Conference tournament champions, and looking now to see where we go in the opening round.
This is both Stavanoa's and Perez's first year with the team. Congratulations, Jaguars. The #1 ranked Shiner Comanches are hoping to make it back to the state title for the 2nd year in a row and the state tournament for the 3rd straight year. The Comanches have been ranked in the top 5 the past 3 seasons, and it's in part to senior Ryan Peterson, who has committed to Sam Houston State University as a pitcher. He and the Comanches are familiar with the Frio Bobcats on both the ball diamond and the football field, and are hoping to get revenge against the Bobcats since the Bobcats knocked them out of the postseason in football this past season. Now here's the senior on the rivalry game.
It just comes down to who wants it more, and like who can hit better and pitch better. And I mean, they got some good athletes over there, and but I think we'll be okay. We'll be ready.
And Refugio will meet here in Victoria at Riverside Stadium tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Switching to softball, the Hallettsville Lady Brahmas are the defending state champions and have some new faces on the team after last year's run, but they are performing. The Lady Brahmas are getting ready to face off against the Industrial Cobras, which they have not met this year. Freshman pitcher Grace Halata, along with a state champion and her head coach Callie Cresta, reflect on the series.
It's kind of nerve-wracking because, I mean, I'm a freshman pitching on varsity, so it's just kind of been like nervous.
It was very special, and I love reflecting back on it at times like this. But at the same time, you reflect back on it, but we're worried about the present and the future with what we got going on now.
The series starts on Friday at 5 in Columbus, followed by Game 2. Well, that's your sports, Don and Karina. Back to you.
Thanks, Gina. Stay with us. Coming up next on 25 News Now at 10. We'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, Fort Hood is now Fort Cavazos, renamed after the first Hispanic 4-star general.
Mega donor Harlan Crow of Dallas rejecting congressional requests for information about his financial dealings with Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Finance Committee Democrats looking into whether the luxury trips and private real estate deals Thomas received from Crow violated U.S. tax law. They're asking for information on all gifts and payments over $415 that Crow might have gifted to Thomas or any other justice and their family members.
Senator Dianne Feinstein is returning to Washington today, according to her spokesperson. She was out since February with the shingles and subsequent complications. The 89-year-old lawmaker is under pressure to return to the Senate, and some Democrats have suggested she resign. Feinstein sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee, so her absence means Democrats need Republican support to approve nominees. She's announced she won't run for re-election next year.
You know, just moments ago, Gina was talking about a big baseball game, playoffs, Refugio versus Shiner at Riverside Stadium tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Weather-wise?
Well, let's see. First of all the athletic directors have a lightning gauge. Yeah. That's important. If you're going, take your rain gear. I think we'll still be on the stormy side tomorrow night. But by Thursday, we do get a marked decrease in the amount of showers around the area. We are going to be looking at a stormy weekend because we've got the frontal system arriving, and we'll have copious moisture and a very loose atmosphere. So the chances of getting significant rain on Saturday, Sunday is very high. Just keep that in mind as we plan our events for the coming weekend.
Mac, thank you. And finally tonight, Fort Hood in Killeen has a new name. The military post was named after a Confederate general, but now it will honor the Army's first Hispanic four-star general. The base designated Tuesday as Fort Cavazos in honor of General Richard Cavazos, a Kingsville native. Cavazos served in the Korean and Vietnam Wars and became a four-star general in 1982. Fort Hood, one of 9 Army installations being renamed to remove Confederate names from military bases. One more thing about General Cavazos. I don't know if this is the case from any other American soldier. He won the Distinguished Service Cross in the Korean War and in the Vietnam War.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
Incredible. Well, it was about time that facility be changed. But thank you, Don, for that fact, and thank you for your weather, and thank you for joining us for 25 News Now at 10. Remember, we're streaming 24/7 on Crossroads Today Plus.
Join Carolina and Trey, 25 News Now Sunrise, starting at 5 a.m. Good night.